This very special live edition from the Republican National Convention of the Politics podcast is brought to you by The Contender, the game of presidential debate. Right now, you can get it for the cheapest we will ever sell it during the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. The 500-card base deck plus both expansions for only $49.99. Head over there right now, thecontender.us. Again, the new deal, the $49.99 650 cards, the whole game, right to your door. And by patreon.com/JURY. Support this show by giving us all of your money at patreon.com/JURY. This kind of stuff does not happen unless you guys make it happen. Thank you so much for doing that. And by stickers or DIAF. Look at all these stickers on my laptop. If you're watching us live on BitTorrent News, you can get them and more at stickers or DIAF. But you want to know what? We're live here in Cleveland. Ben, why don't you throw on that theme music?
Politics, 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 politics. Yes.
Oh my Lord. This has been maybe one of the most unglued weeks of my life. Here to break it down is Dave Levinthal from the Center for Public Integrity.
Got it.
Yes, nailed it. We're going to talk money because, of course, amongst everything, this is how crazy these last few days. Normally, something like an FEC filing dropping in the middle of a convention when all the media is together is in the top 5 of stories. It's like speech, whatever the rumor is, and then this kind of like hard money talk on how people are doing. Money is one of the metrics that you can judge. And yet, we're going to start our show by talking about not Mike Pence. No, not the vice presidential pick for the Republican ticket. Not even Melania Trump, who wound up making more headlines than she was otherwise wont to because of a plagiarism scandal. We are going to talk about something that I can't remember in my lifetime happening, which is a featured primetime speaker during a convention getting booed out of the arena and immediate reporting saying that it was organized by the team that put him on that stage and invited him to be there. Can you remember anything like Ted Cruz, like what happened with Ted Cruz, happening?
You always have shenanigans at a convention. You think back to 2012, and it was Ron Paul and his delegates making a huge stink on the floor and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's always something that happens. But no, to your point, has anything like this happened in modern political history? No, not quite. Should it be surprising to people that Ted Cruz stood up there and did not endorse Donald Trump, didn't even mention Donald Trump's name? That should not be surprising. I mean,
no.
You weren't paying attention in the primary if you thought that Ted Cruz was going to go out there and lovingly endorse Donald Trump and say, everyone get behind him, he's a great guy. Donald Trump spent months calling Ted Cruz a liar.
Yeah.
Basically painted him as the worst scoundrel that you could possibly paint somebody as. So, yeah, there's bad blood there, and Ted Cruz is also looking out for Ted Cruz. If Donald Trump does not win the presidency here in 2016, you better believe that Ted Cruz is going to have one thing on his mind. Mind you, he's running for re-election in 2018, but he's going to be immediately looking ahead to 2020. He's playing a long game, and what you saw was the first volley in that long march toward whatever Ted Cruz is going to be in the future to the Republican Party.
Which in and of itself is a gamble. Because,
Sure.
We still live in a country where
Of
the
course.
demographics are 50-50. A well-run campaign on either side would lead to, Obama beat Romney, what we consider to be soundly by the numbers, and yet it was only by a few percentage points here or there. Donald Trump has to lose. Donald Trump has to leave the party effectively, and Ted Cruz has to be left saying, told you so.
But Ted Cruz is a young man, relatively
is.
speaking.
Yeah.
He's in his mid-40s. He's got a long political career ahead of him if he continues to go down the path that he's been going, if his popularity continues to be at the level, at least in Texas, where it was. So he's got to win re-election.
I mean, listen, he had a hard time in that. He had a hard time in that Texas delegate breakfast. Apparently, I guess amongst the sausage patties and pancakes, there was quite a bit of dissension in the ranks. For those of you who aren't aware, 9 a.m. today, bright and early. He rolls in and says, you want to know what? It would have been easy for me to turn tail and run, but not only do I want to speak to you personally, I also want to take your questions, which is led to one of the most interesting Politico pieces that I've ever read, where they just wound up going with quotes from what people were yelling from the audience, not only at Ted Cruz, but also at each other. A confusing and emotional scene, but what you're hearing right now, and especially as the Trump team and the RNC are going to say, this is him effectively endorsing Hillary, and that damages him with conservatives. And there was at least some of his own delegation that seemed to echo that.
And that case will be made by some Republicans. Ted Cruz has said there is no way I'm voting for Hillary, so he's not going to endorse Hillary Clinton. He may not endorse anyone, and that's his prerogative. He can endorse or not endorse whomever he wants to. And he yet may endorse Donald Trump. He also left open that possibility as well. But, Ted Cruz right now, he's owning this. He is not backing away one iota. He's not taking any steps away from the fact that right now he wants to kind of be the fly in Donald Trump's political ointment, and he's going to embrace that for the time being. And I'm sure Ted Cruz, when he was getting booed, he couldn't have been happier with that result. He wants to be viewed still as the anti-Donald Trump and within the Republican Party.
And Michael Schor sat here last night. We've been doing this live coverage on BitTorrent News, which for those of you who are just listening on audio, this is where we are broadcasting this from the media center here in Cleveland. And where you are right now, last night, that's exactly what Michael Schor said. And although I can understand that Ted Cruz wants to be somebody that says, I was principled when it was hard, when it was not easy, I stood my ground. I am a man of my word. I stick by my family, as he explained at the delegate breakfast today. Do you have to get booed out of the building by an entire basketball arena to prove it?
Look, it's like WWE wrestling.
He wants to be the heel.
You got the heel up there, and he's standing in the middle of the ring, and everyone is booing him, and they're throwing beer cups, and it's chaos. And that's what it was, politically speaking. Extend the metaphor to what we saw last night. He's soaking it up, he's owning it, and he, in a way, he wants it because if he does, he has nothing to gain, Justin, from endorsing Donald Trump from a political standpoint, particularly when he's looking to his future, particularly when he's considering, I'm certain, the possibility of running for president again, which would hardly be unprecedented. Mitt Romney ran for president in 2008, came back in 2012. Hillary Clinton obviously ran in 2008, and she's going to be the nominee this time for the Democrats. So candidates do this all the time, and Ted Cruz doesn't have 2016 on his mind anymore. He has some other date, some other year,
all right,
and that's going to happen.
Let's break down the count them 4 different ways that you can avoid Donald Trump. We have the Jeb Bush, the I'm not going to go, but I am going to write a Washington Post editorial about why I'm not going, right? We have the Marco Rubio, the now I'm forced to run for Senate again because we're going to get murdered down ballot. And I guess I will be a part of the Republican National Convention kicking and screaming, but I'm only going to record a vine, a 6-second vine that you're going to play up on the Jumbotron. You have now Schrodinger's governor, John Kasich, who is both here and not here, all at the same time. He is taking he is the most conspicuous non-speaker, right, as Donald Trump had to call in to O'Reilly while night 1 of the convention was still going on, and the authors of the book 13 Hours were taking a literal 13 hours to explain their experience in Benghazi. Donald Trump calls into Bill O'Reilly almost exclusively to just talk some mad trash about John Kasich. And now we have Ted Cruz. Now 3 of those 4 got a point across and sufficiently had their arms locked away from Donald Trump.
And by the way, good job. You got all 4 out. You did not have a Rick Perry moment there.
I didn't. Exactly. And oops. The other 3 didn't have to get booed out of the building. Is this more effective than those other 3? Is the way that Ted Cruz went the most explosive way to show that you are not in league with Donald Trump for this election?
For Ted Cruz, this probably was the most effective way. He's not looking to make nice. He's not looking to mend fences. He's not looking to build bridges to Donald Trump. Use whatever phrasing you want.
Like a reality show contestant. I ain't here to make friends.
Nope. And he's looking for, again, one thing and one thing only, and that is Ted Cruz's future. Not Donald Trump's.
Not Donald Trump's. We share a education from the Syracuse University.
See, I would argue we share an education from the Daily Orange.
Certainly so.
Let's be clear.
All right, let's get. I wasn't going to go full inside baseball, but hell, let's go ahead and play it. And by the way, sign your petition to have the university not move the 744 Ostrom campus if we're really going to go there. So yeah, absolutely. We both worked at the same, the longest-running independent newspaper in the Daily Orange for college and campus. Anyway, what is your favorite word from Ted Cruz's, and in the only Ted Cruz way that he can give a sound bite? He said, "I will not be a servile puppy and run back to Donald Trump." And when asked about his pledge, he said that was abrogated when Donald Trump got nasty with his family, specifically the Twitter meme with his wife, Heidi Cruz, and referring obliquely that maybe his father, Rafael Cruz, was involved in the Kennedy assassination. So what, servile or abrogate?
Well,
which is your favorite word?
You stole it. Servile, definitely. But look, Ted Cruz is a Princeton University debate champion here. He's not on Duck Dynasty. He's not the avocado lady who spoke earlier in the week. He's not from The Bold and the Beautiful. This dude, whether you love Ted Cruz, whether you hate Ted Cruz is one of the most highly educated and intelligent members of Congress. Again, love his politics, hate his politics.
Yeah.
He's somebody who is operating at a higher intellectual level than most candidates, most people in Congress, and he is not afraid to show that off. So every time you hear him speak, he's typically taking a path that flies a little bit higher. It's going to be at a slightly higher altitude,
an elevated
than your
position.
average bear.
Yeah. I think he'd make a great dungeon master. I think he'd be really good, right? If you're like you walk into the dungeon and you hear a voice, "You will be my servile puppy." I think that would be great.
Well, listen to him. If you haven't seen the clips of him doing Simpsons impressions, it by far is one of the more entertaining, if somewhat forgotten, aspects of the entire election.
Well, certainly so. He's also a gigantic fan and can repeat large swaths of The Princess Bride. He has stated repeatedly that is his favorite movie, and we can add that you do not get into a land war in Asia, nor do you invite Ted Cruz to your convention unless you've secured an endorsement.
Wise words.
Let's flip this around from Donald Trump's perspective. I ran into a few Trump staffers at one of the bars right outside the arena last night. Asked them. It was, remember, those GIFs, the "This is fine" GIF, right? Where it's just a little cartoon dog sitting in the house that is falling apart, and just "This is fine" holding his cup of coffee. It's
on fire.
Exactly, everything's on fire.
Right.
That's the look that I got from the Trump staffers last night. That is just like, oh, what'd you think of tonight? Oh, Mike Pence. Oh man, Mike Pence, what a great speech. It really brings the conservative movement here to the Trump train. I think it was great. And it's like, yeah, but no one's going to talk about that. Yeah, we know.
Well, a little bit of intrigue from last night. As Ted Cruz was talking, Donald Trump's campaign in that moment was filing its campaign finance report with the Federal Election Commission. The document came in quite literally as Ted Cruz was giving his sermon, his speech. And what did it show? Well, ultimately it showed that Donald Trump, oh yeah, he's a billionaire. Oh yeah, he's not beholden to anyone, but he's also having a very difficult time raising money for his campaign versus the massive money machine that is Team Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton. Okay, so what is the headline out of that FEC filing last night?
Hillary Clinton right now has about a 3-to-1 advantage over Trump, and that's including not only her campaign and his campaign, but the multitude of super PACs and outside political groups, some of which can raise and spend unlimited amounts of money to advocate for their preferred candidate. So right now, Hillary Clinton, everyone thinks of Donald Trump as the money guy. Make no mistake about it, Hillary Clinton's machine is bigger, it's badder, and it's a heck of a lot richer than anything Donald Trump has going on right now. The problem that Donald Trump has is even he can be as rich as anything.
Yeah.
He can't exactly go and liquidate one of the hotels that he owns, turn that into spendable cash and just flow it into the election right now. So there's this question. He's put about 55% of all the money that he's raised has gone from Donald Trump himself, but still it just doesn't add up to the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that Team Clinton has been able to generate to date. This could change, but right now, advantage Hillary Clinton in a major way.
So let me get back to something that you said, because one of my favorite clips, and I think that this is an amazing moment of political history, which was, of course, Alex Jones's goblin speech about how Donald Trump is charging into a goblin's nest, hacking goblins, getting goblin vomit on them, and he just hopes he is not caught kissing or in bed with a goblin. The point that he went on later to make after his colorful metaphor was he has to start liquidating assets. He has to start, selling the building, which has become Donald Trump's own metaphor for, sell a golf course, sell these assets that we can understand that he is not liquid capital rich in the way that we think when we say, oh, he's a billionaire. That doesn't mean he has $1 billion that he can just throw around right now. He's got a lot of stuff invested. You say that he cannot just sell he can't, sell his Mar-a-Lago property and then
he can, but he's running out of time. The stuff takes time. So great, sell the hotel, but you're not going to get the cash out of it for, I don't know, until halfway through 2017. So this is the fundamental problem that Trump faces. You got to remember that all throughout the primary, every single time that Donald Trump talked about money, he would say, I am a billionaire. Yeah. I am not beholden to anyone. I don't need anyone else's money. Yeah.
I'm the one who pays these people. I don't need to be paid.
Exactly. I don't need to be paid, and I don't need anyone else's money. I'm self-funded. And this was something that was very attractive to a lot of supporters who, quite frankly, were kind of sick of the whole money game that's played in politics, where politicians are always out there with their hands out saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. Donald Trump is saying, nope, I can do it myself because that's why I'm successful in business. I'm going to run my own campaign. Now that has changed over the past couple of months, and it's changed not a little bit, but a lot of it, almost 180 degrees from where he was during the primary, because he does realize, and it's just a political reality, this is a very pragmatic business decision for Donald Trump, it's worth it more for him to start fundraising like crazy in a very traditional political way than to kind of stand on principle and keep that line going that he had all throughout the primary of not being beholden to anyone and not needing anyone's cash. So he's been going to fundraisers. He's been, his team has been supportive of super PACs that in turn are supporting Donald Trump. All the tricks that Hillary Clinton is running.
Rudy Giuliani is probably out here right now buying cigars and scotch for any and all people to try and raise money for a super PAC. A part of the new media rebuke of Donald Trump to Ted Cruz last night, aside from a few pointed tweets, were apparently a scuffle in the donor suite where somebody was restrained.
Look,
if Sheldon Adelson is taking selfies with Donald Trump.
I'm looking at my phone right now, and I'm just scrolling through the past few emails. Ivanka Trump, Team Trump, Donald Trump. These aren't like, hey, Dave, how's it going? These are, I need your money. Let's raise $4 million by the end of today. That's our new goal. I'm just quoting right from him, and that's exactly what they're doing. And we're not doing in any way, shape, or form like that just a couple of months ago. So very different change for them.
But this is what they should be doing, right? I mean, everybody who's criticized their money outreach effort has said, all you guys do is make news. The best way to raise money is to send out an email on a day where news is reverberating, and yet none of that has happened. So at least now that is something that is happening. This is a gigantic news thing. They can spin it how they want. They can make one of those, I'm on fire, click this email or else I'll die. Like, just kidding, can I have $5, subject lines. But at least this is something that a professional campaign does, question mark?
Yeah, and you can debate should or shouldn't, or, should Donald Trump be just keeping ideologically pure here. The reality is he has to, and it just is not really an option for him. And why? Well, because if he doesn't raise the kind of money that Hillary Clinton's operation is raising, Donald Trump can't hire the kind of staff that Hillary Clinton has. Donald Trump can't do television advertising and digital advertising and communications work. Donald Trump is not going to have the kind of presence across the country. This is a 50-state campaign that Hillary Clinton will have. And yes, he gets tons of earned media, tons of free media from all the interviews he does, and all the networks are paying attention to them, but that only does go so far. If you're really running close in a swing state, take Florida, take Ohio, well, you need a ground game. You need people out there. You need to kind of make that last final push. And, an interview on CNN probably isn't going to be the thing that does it. Having a whole army of folks down in, Miami or Jacksonville or Tallahassee, that's going to be the thing that gets people off their couch, out into the streets, over to the polls, and clicking the Donald Trump button, or if Florida, pressing in the Chad if you want to go back to 2000,
okay.
Versus the one for Hillary Clinton, or for that matter, not voting for anyone at all and staying home and losing out on the support and enthusiasm that you can get by having a very active operation.
That no matter what the polls say, getting on the phone and telling somebody who you're going to vote for is easier than getting up off your butt, heading to your local polling station and filling something out, or doing an absentee ballot or a pre-ballot.
In the end, you got to get people to vote.
People into the booth to hit your button. That is the only game that is being played, and everything else is in service to that. Quick primer on money in general, because especially in this election, money has just kind of substituted for, just find, replace money, evil. Hillary Clinton has raised X amount of evil in this quarter. Especially with Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders running and making, where they get their money a big political football. What does money buy in an election, both for advertising and staffing?
So it will buy, for example, for Hillary Clinton, tens upon tens and tens of thousands of television advertisement spots that right now are really focused on Florida in particular, swing states in general, but Florida in particular. And she's slaughtering Donald Trump in Florida, getting her message out almost unmatched. Team Trump has aired very few ads, almost none, since Donald Trump became the presumptive nominee. Republican nominee. So Team Clinton, and when I say Team Clinton, I mean the campaign and the super PACs that are supporting her, they've had free reign in this, and they've been able to just go out and just nail Donald Trump time and time again with negative ads, painting him as, well, everything that Democrats paint Donald Trump as, unscrupulous, a man out for himself, somebody who would not represent the interests of the American people. So Donald Trump, because of money considerations, is going to have to do something in order to beat that back, to parry those attacks. And right now, at this moment in time, he's not doing it. So money buys lots of things. On this one particular issue, Team Clinton is just way out ahead.
Let's talk about time frames, because you mentioned, hey, look, you can go ahead and list, Mar-a-Lago on Craigslist, at an OBO, but these things don't close easily. Maybe you can get a loan to cover what you expect it's going to sell for, to make quick cash, but these all come with strings and become less and less of an option the further you get on the road to November. When it comes to buying ads, has the window even already closed on like buying big gigantic swaths of ad time during key moments up through November for a lot of these swing states?
It hasn't yet. So you can still definitely get ads at television stations and different properties all throughout the country. The problem is it gets more expensive oftentimes the closer you get to Election Day. And also, too, it's cheaper for campaigns to buy the same exact ad at the same exact time, usually, than it is for a super PAC to do it. So if Donald Trump is very reliant on several super PACs that have come up, there's less efficiency in television advertisements, in particular with super PACs versus the campaign operation itself. Now, we focus on TV a lot. Now, there's a whole bunch of digital advertising, social media advertising, even phone banking and telemarketing that goes on in order to communicate a message to the electorate, to supporters. So lots of different things are going on, but television still, at least in 2016, and it may be different 4 years from now or 8 years from now, but television is still where most of the money is going. And less than in 2012, but still a majority. And as a result of that, both campaigns have to focus on TV to a pretty significant extent in order to try to get their message out.
Trump's been very roundly either criticized or mocked for not getting the kind of ad time on television that he has. Is there any sense that he is buying or spending more on those other elements that you just mentioned, be it digital media or phone banks?
They're not doing a whole lot, in part because they just don't have unlimited resources for the campaign at this moment in time. A lot of people always ask me, well, how much has Donald Trump actually put in himself into his campaign? And the figure is north of around about $50 million. So $50 million, not an insignificant amount of money, no question about that. But still, compared to the hundreds of millions of dollars that Team Clinton has been pouring into all of that, $50 million only goes so far when you're running a national campaign. If you're running a Senate campaign in, I don't know, New Hampshire, then fine, $50 million.
Oh, man, you're balling out of control.
You could buy like a county in New Hampshire. But if that's, if it's the entire United States, well, $50 million, that gets eaten up in a matter of weeks, as opposed to something that's going to last you the whole campaign.
How much money has been collected so far by both campaigns?
So when you wrap in both campaigns, and let's wrap into the other presidential candidates who have also run and, of course, dropped out.
Okay, got
so
it.
both sides, and Bernie Sanders. It's a figure that is well beyond $1 billion at this point. We're talking roughly about $1.5 billion, which is well ahead at this point in time 4 years ago. So we're easily looking, Justin, at the most expensive presidential election in U.S. history, which we say every 4 years. But the game is different this time because you have, number one, so many candidates who ran and were competitive. You had two on the Democratic side, and Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, who dollar for dollar were effectively going neck and neck. Hillary was a little bit ahead, but Bernie Sanders had an incredible story in the sense that he was cobbling together all of these donations from what in the end was millions of people who were, giving their $27 to Bernie Sanders or whatever they were giving. Very different approach to raising funds for a campaign than Hillary Clinton, who was getting money in much larger increments. And
things were also a little hotter for longer on both sides.
Without question.
Than 4 years ago.
So the length of the campaign, number one, the number of candidates, number two, and also, too, the resources that several of the candidates had, which were significant, really added all up to make this a historically expensive primary season that's now bleeding into the general election.
So that's kind of amazing, because even with Trump under fundraising, this is still the most expensive election ever.
Jeb Bush's supportive super PAC raised more than $100 million. Think about that.
How much has Trump raised?
Think about that. And that still stands as more than the Donald Trump campaign itself is raised. So
wait, hold on. Was that the PAC, or was that Jeb Bush's campaign?
That's the super PAC.
The super PAC.
So initially, you just had millionaires.
He just had $100 million out of the
pouring
game.
Money, almost, and it did him nothing. So the question always is, well, money must buy elections, right? Well, the answer is, well, if you have 20 candidates who are running in a presidential election, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. What money does from a political standpoint is make you competitive. You at least have a fighting chance. If you have no money at all, then you're going to be, I don't know, you're going to be Rick Santorum, okay?
Exactly,
Your name's going to be in the mix, but you're going to be a whole lot
You're going to be doing,
of
as we went in Iowa, in Des Moines, did a pancake breakfast without pancakes. That is my metaphor of the Rick Santorum campaign as I witnessed it this year.
That's about as good as it gets. But also, too, money is an opportunity, and we've written about this many times, both on the Republican and the Democratic side. what does money do for somebody who's giving it? And that's a question that oftentimes doesn't get focused on in the context of a political campaign. Everyone thinks, oh, well, the $1 million, it's going to be used for the candidate to win. Well, it's also going to be used for the donor to win as well. They're going to win access. They're going to win friendship with that campaign, with the candidate.
Yeah.
And if they want something, if they have some sort of a special interest or a pet issue that they really, really want to get before the legions of power that are running for elected office, the highest office in the United States and the world for all intents and purposes, $1 million or $5 million, that goes a long way to make sure that you are number one on the list of people that candidate is going to hang out with, talk to, return the phone calls, of all that kind of good stuff.
So if we're going to take how people give money to campaigns and put it on a graph, and it peaks and crescendos somewhere, where are the conventions on that graph?
The conventions are like the most ultra concentrated place that you can go anywhere in the country for one time every 4 years, where you can schmooze and booze and rub elbows with the most powerful people in the party that is hosting the convention. So I've been to...
So that's why Rudy Giuliani's on Rich Guy Patrol all weekend, right?
I've been to a number of different parties, some of which I've gotten into, others of which they've politely escorted me out because they don't want prying eyes on the act of lawmakers and lobbyists and corporate interests and whatnot, all getting together and having a soiree and doing their things. But the point is that all the action that you see in the convention hall, all right, that's great. And you see it on the networks. You see the video of that. You hear what all the folks and the speakers are saying. So much of the action never gets a camera on it. So much of the action is behind closed doors. And this is action that has no bearing on the convention, but it has all the bearing in the world on the way that
actually
politics
what's happening.
works. Exactly.
And that's the thing. Like any convention, I mean, what's happening on stage is really only perfunctory. The real movement happens out in the bar and very often inside the hotel rooms. So then this would be a high watermark for people donating the campaigns at conventions? Like, so now it declines from here in terms of big, gigantic sums of money coming into
probably
campaigns?
won't decline in the sense that you have a lot of time left, and the action on the ground sometimes will dictate money coming in.
Gotcha.
You could have a big news event, or a candidate could say something, or there's a flashpoint, and suddenly everyone's making a donation because they want to get behind a guy or they want to beat the other one. Be that as it may, I talked to, for example, a Senate candidate, Republican Senate candidate, retired Colonel Rob Manasse in Louisiana. And we were standing in a security line. And I asked him, I said, so Colonel, how many events are you going to during the course of the 4 days while you're here at the Republican National Convention? And he said, well, I'm going to about 35 different events. I said, wait, 3.5, not 3.5, but 35 events, 4 days. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks afterward, pre-breakfast, second breakfast, you name it. They're going to do everything that they possibly can.
What about afternoonsies?
Sure, high tea, you got it. And as a result, every event that he was going to is not a fundraiser for his campaign, but most of those events, by his own description, were opportunities for him to get to know people, make his elevator pitch, say, all right, write me a check for $100, $1,000. I need your support. Here's my story. It's a good story as far as I'm concerned, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what he's saying to folks as he goes about to event. So if you're going to 35 events and you're asking for money at all of those events, well, you're probably going to make some money, and that's what you can do here, and probably not what you can do if you're just walking down Bourbon Street in New Orleans saying, all right, I'm candidate so-and-so, help me out.
How about you peel off a few for your old pal? Let's talk about the bars. Let's talk about everything else around. What are you seeing? I mean, obviously you've been to some of these events. What is the mood? This is a contentious, I think, atmosphere with a fairly contentious candidate at the helm of it. Any interesting scenes from the conventions?
Well, first let's compare it to, say, Denver 2008. Okay. Barack Obama is going to be coronated as the Democratic nominee.
Yes.
So I was
with
there.
his Greek columns and
there he is,
the weight of history.
filling a football stadium.
Yeah.
The mood there.
And
8
lo,
years ago,
the clouds did part, and a bright shining spire of sunshine lit the stage.
the level of revelry at that convention was unmatched.
Euphoria.
It was off the charts. It was as if the heavens had parted and Barack Obama came down to lead the Democratic Party. And so when you went to some of those parties, when you went to some of the events, it was pandemonium. It was absolute, complete,
Swinging from the
unadulterated
chandeliers.
joy. And
Yeah.
there is no, like, Sia is not to be found right now. There's not a whole lot of joy and happiness right now.
Yeah, no joy in Mudville.
And no joy in Cleveland, and no joy in these parties. Now, that's overstating it a bit. You have a lot of people who are very excited about Donald Trump.
Delegates are very enthusiastic.
Absolutely, but the delegates aren't typically the ones who are leading these dozens and dozens, hundreds of parties and gatherings and whatnot. These are, largely driven by, for example, people who are in Congress who are concerned whether they like Trump or they don't like Trump. They're concerned about the effect of Trump on their ability, in some cases, for them to win re-election. So you've got this whole down ballot dynamic with a lot of House and Senate members who are concerned that if Donald Trump tanks, if Hillary Clinton wipes the floor with Donald Trump in the general election, well, they're gonna be on that floor that gets wiped, and that a lot of people are just going to refuse categorically to split their ticket and say, all right, well, I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton here, but I'm going to vote for Republican House candidate so and so. That just doesn't happen a whole lot, especially now with the country, with politics so bifurcated, so polarized, so divided. That's a tough ask for an electorate, even if you're a very popular Republican in a Democratic-leaning district, which happens a lot, or vice versa. Asking people to split their ticket is going to be a hard, tall order for these folks.
You were at a party, and I was doing live coverage here for BitTorrent, but if I was not and I was free, I would have run fleet of feet to meet you there. It was a party where both Ben Carson and Omarosa were in attendance.
And
give me the play-by-play of
and
this.
Alan West.
And Alan West.
And Herman Cain.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, I missed the Herman Cain party. I'm dying. How was it?
It was wild.
I don't even want to hear anymore.
If you're listening from Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, the Democratic mayor
of DC.
Washington, D.C., was also there. So I hung around for about an hour.
Round of shots for everybody?
There were no shots. Nobody was doing a keg stand.
I would have said body shots. Let's dance on the bar.
Herman Cain wasn't handing out pizzas. I'm sorry to report. But this was a party that was being hosted by Black Florida Republicans who were making the case that the Democrats aren't just the only party that African Americans can associate with. And they had a decent crowd, about 100, 150 people or so.
You were taking pictures of Ben Carson.
Yeah.
Like, literally minutes before, the speaker before him was speaking on stage while you were taking pictures of Ben Carson at that party. He then walks out on stage and gets off so quick. I was half expecting that he had made a cocktail order that he was wanting to get back to by the time that he pieced out.
He looked like he was having a good time. He was there with his wife Candy, and definitely the case was being made that, look, we gotta unify. We gotta make the Republican Party a party that has a big tent. Now, one of the interesting aspects about this particular party was it was being hosted by this caucus group from Florida, but it was being sponsored by pharmaceutical company Pfizer. It was being sponsored by Cruzan Rum. So you got drugs.
Yeah.
You got booze.
Yeah.
And then you also had private prisons, too, because there was a private prison company that was also sponsoring an event like this. So,
considering it was Florida, I'm shocked it wasn't also Big Sugar.
Hey, Big Sugar, Big Sugar.
Oh, no. Yeah, Florida politics does not happen.
But the point is that, that's just one example of how these events run. You get these special interests that come in. They write big checks. They throw this big party. They get access to, Omarosa and Herman Cain and Ben Carson and the mayor of D.C., who was there, mind you, not because she's supporting Republicans. I talked to her office back in D.C.
But it was for D.C.
D.C. statehood.
Yeah.
D.C. statehood. So, So as a result, there was Muriel Bowser, but it's an opportunity for her even to lobby other people in the Republican Party for a cause that is very, very close to her heart and at the top of her political agenda.
So to the constituency.
And if you were just some guy off the street, there were about 7 very large, menacing-looking individuals who were very happy to tell you that no, you got to go back from whence you came.
Man, they got a very big team, and they need some really big rings. I am heartbroken, and there's something that I gotta do to cheer me up. This is something that we do on the podcast every single week.
How can you be sad in a red velvet jacket?
I mean, listen, this is the red to signify my bleeding heart that I wasn't at a party with Herman Cain and Ben Carson and Omarosa and Alan West. This is like my dream squad. Hashtag squad goals of all the squads. You want to know what, Ben? I just need the music. We gotta do this. Of course, every week we read a battleground poll to see where we're at, but anybody can just read it. We like to bring a little bit of extra flair to it. So as soon as we can just get this music queued up, we will go ahead and get it started. There we go. Oh man. I feel like we just need to, as soon as we're done with the live coverage tonight, I'm heading out, I'm buttoning up this red suit, I'm hitting the club, because this, ladies and gentlemen, live in Cleveland, is your official RNC pole dance! The Suffolk pole taken from July 18th to July 20th for the state of Virginia. 500 likely voters with a 4.4 margin of error coming in fourth. With 1% of the vote, it is Jill the Thrill Stein. 5% second to the stage, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a real big round of applause. It is Big Gary Johnson. Second place. He's the star of the party tonight, but in this poll, he's playing second fiddle. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Donald J. Trump. And of course, it is Hillary Clinton at 43%. And that about wraps up our pole dance. We are getting shushed by other media outlets. I think that's the New York Times. I think we officially just got shushed by the New York Times for the pole dance. That has just made me so incredibly happy. JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. Again, JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com is where you can send us your emails. Sean writes, are we in for a civil war no matter what the outcome is in November? If Trump loses, I could see him mobilizing his supporters who are armed and arming others to overthrow the federal government. Some states may even support him through control of state militia and National Guard, while if Hillary loses, Trump may make moves that make military leaders afraid of what may happen, and we may see a possible Democratic coup. Either way, I could see a highly divided country fighting brother against brother in another political civil war, or will Pokemon Go unite the world and we'll all hail Nintendo? Dave?
No.
Okay. Andy writes, now that we have a VP candidate for the Republicans, do you think it would be fun to speculate on the rest of the hypothetical administration? ? For Trump, I think Chris Christie would give his left testicle for Attorney General and fits Trump's loyalty requirements as the first Republican presidential candidate to drop in favor of Trump. Also, he's probably not long for the New Jersey governorship. I think that's fait accompli. I don't think that he would win another election there. I think he'll tap Newt for Secretary of State. He does not have any evidence to support that. And then as far as the Clinton administration, I think she'll leave Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders in the Senate. And I don't think that she can risk taking a sitting Democratic senator. As we all know, the Koch brothers are going to push hard to gain a Senate majority. That is something that Dave can certainly speak to. Thanks for your continued information and entertainment. And I'm going to add editorially and the annoyance of the New York Times writing staff. Dave, let's focus on the Clinton thing, because I know you've done a lot of reporting on the Koch money machine, specifically when it comes to academia, but also getting a sense of it in general. Do you think poaching either Hillary or, poaching Bernie or Elizabeth Warren from the Senate is something that is a problem that would be seized upon by the Kochs?
So the Koch brothers are, really going to, as we talked about before, focus down ballot. So if the question is, what are the Kochs going to do with their effectively unlimited resources in a political context, don't look for them to support Donald Trump. Don't look for them to do anything in any way, shape, or form through their vast network of political moneymakers and nonprofit organizations to really get behind Team Trump. You're going to have a lot of Senate races, House races that are going to be absolutely a focal point, and already are a focal point of these organizations that are supported by the Koch machine. So that's just an absolutely incredible change of situations, because everyone, Clinton, Trump, the whole deal, thought that the Kochs were going to be very active in the presidential race, and no.
So far, ghost, right? Yep. Just non-existent. NoFrack, who is somebody that emailed me last March extolling the virtues of Mike Pence as a probable presidential candidate. This is before the Religious Freedom Act and his governorship kind of getting derailed.
Some clairvoyance, though, at play.
Some clairvoyance, though. He did indeed end up on the big stage here at Cleveland. I wrote him back and said, hey, listen, at least you were half right. He wrote back to me, there is no joy in Mudville. Wow, 2 times we're bringing out the Casey at Bat reference. He was picked for every reason he was well positioned to run, but every reason he accepted is why he would have been a terrible president, which is certainly not happening now, at least. So we assume that NoFrack was in the wound up landing in the Never Trump movement when it came to Mike Pence's selection. But just so we know, we did have people calling for Mike Pence way early on. Was Mike Pence on your radar at all before, even before things got heady last summer, before Donald Trump announced and we had already 25,000 candidates for the Republican nomination?
He was on our radar. We at the Center for Public Integrity produced a sort of a primer on all the candidates who ran. So every single last one, both Democratic and Republican. And Mike Pence, when he was a possible presidential candidate, was being rumored that he was going to be interested in running. And we're going back to early 2015. We decided against pre-writing a Mike Pence profile and kind of wishing that we did now, so that we could have had that in the can ready to go when he was a vice presidential candidate. But yeah, he's somebody whose name has been out there for a while. He's obviously a governor. He was in Congress for many years. I believe 12 years he served in Congress. So as a result, it's not like he's an unknown commodity. This isn't Ross Perot picking Admiral James Stockdale out of nowhere to become a vice presidential running mate.
He gave the Admiral James Stockdale.
He kind of did. It was great. I was cheering from the stand. So
oh yeah, no, all the wonks in the crowd. A big wink and a nod to one of the most famous.
But the point is that he's a known commodity. He's somebody who's been in politics, and that's precisely one of the overriding reasons why he's on the ticket, because he does serve as sort of that countervailing force to Donald Trump, in the sense that he is a political animal, a political insider. He is not a career politician, but somebody who's been in politics for many years, as opposed to Donald Trump, who's running for elected office for the first time at age 69/70 after 7 decades of doing everything that Donald Trump has done otherwise.
My view on Pence was that for Trump, he was the best option out of the scratch and dent bin of establishment. I've run a state. I have conservative credentials. Republicans.
And he had some options. Chris Christie obviously was in that mix too, but Chris Christie, it is not. A very sad Chris Christie.
Although I am sure for both of their worldviews, it would be just amazing to only have New York and New Jersey represented on a national ticket, as the ego of the tri-state area refuses to believe that there is anything that exists
like New York and New Jersey needs that.
I do think that Pence was a good pick, and we are going to get to one more Cruz thing after this. Ken writes, I've been watching America's Got Talent with my kids and got to thinking the United States is full of amazing people from all walks of life. So why is it that the only credible choices for president are a clearly corrupt elitist reptoid who thinks laws are rules for the peasants beneath her, and orange Hitler wannabe who talks like a narcissistic packlid? When is the cream that's risen to the top of the system designed to offer up the best and the brightest potential leaders for our great nation? Isn't it clear that something broken? I'm going to go ahead and clarify that as the deepest thought anyone has ever had watching America's Got Talent.
That is Yeah, not very complimentary. Look, people forget that there's going to be a couple of other people on the ballot when they go into the ballot box.
Yeah.
That this is not strictly a Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump.
I tried to let everybody know that, but the New York Times shushed me.
So, the poll that you read, it shows, you named two other names, Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, and Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate. Are we going to elect a Libertarian or a Green Party member to the presidency of the United States in 2016? Probably a better chance of a very, very large asteroid hitting Washington, D.C. God forbid that happen, but Gary Johnson does have the ability in particular to make some trouble for Hillary Clinton or for Donald Trump, probably more Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton, and he's definitely somebody who, in the limited ability of him campaigning, has made exactly this case that, number one, there are other options.
Yeah.
Number two, I think differently than both of those candidates. This is not a binary. This is not red versus blue.
And prior to Mike Pence's announcement, the only two Republican governors that were running on the 50-state ballot were Bill Weld and Gary Johnson on the Libertarian ticket.
Bill Weld's an interesting guy, too, in that he was a Republican governor in a Democratic state, Massachusetts, back many years ago, and he can make a strong case along the same lines that Gary Johnson can, too. So watch for them to be potentially the greatest fly in the ointment when it comes to both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and again, a little more Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton.
Well, I mean, although, have you been surprised in some of the polling that has shown that Gary Johnson seems to be drawing a little bit more from Hillary Clinton than people thought that he would, as Bernie, I guess the working theory is that Bernie voters are maybe finding more in common with Gary Johnson than Jill Stein, and are drawing that away from Hillary's potential in terms of an electorate?
Bernie Sanders, remember, is an independent in the U.S. Senate. So he has a very independent streak in a way that, even though he's always tagged as the socialist that he is, also too has, in certain regards, a libertarian streak in the sense that he very much believes in a social sense.
Their economic message are maybe about as 180 as they
about
can
as
be.
180 as possible,
Right.
but that's the thing. The libertarian message on certain social issues is compatible with that of liberal Democrats.
Yeah.
So libertarians, are odd like that, in that certain things that they generally believe in very much appeal to Republicans.
Yeah.
That's usually with dollar figures attached. And then other things, though, can potentially appeal to those who are very much on the left. So no, I'm not surprised that Gary Johnson will appeal to some people who are Bernie Sanders supporters, particularly those who really hate Hillary Clinton and are not going to vote for her and are not going to get on Team Clinton. But also, too, you have Jill Stein, who very actively is making the case that if you're a Bernie supporter, I am Bernie Sanders 2.0.
Yeah.
I am the candidate that you need to come to. You should support me because I am so much better than Hillary Clinton will ever be on all the things that Bernie Sanders supports and beholds and loves. And even though Bernie Sanders has supported Hillary Clinton now and endorsed her, that's fine and good. Still, vote for me, Jill Stein. So that hasn't gotten the kind of traction yet that I'm sure she would like, but she's going to be making a strong case. She will almost certainly be the Green Party nominee when they go meet in August, and depending on how much money she's able to generate, could to some extent cause a little trouble, and particularly states where the Green Party would play. We brought up New Hampshire before.
Yeah.
I'm thinking New Hampshire. I'm thinking Massachusetts. I'm thinking Vermont. Not big states here. Jill Stein is not going to win California. She's not going to win Florida, but she could move the needle a little bit in certain states.
I mean, the one very clear pathway between Bernie Sanders and both of those candidates are that fire-ass Kush. So we have one more Bernie email, and this will kind of be our glance into next week when we will be in Philadelphia. And I would not have read this if we had not just seen what we saw last night with Ted Cruz. Before listening, this is Crystal. She was at the Bernie endorsement of Hillary. Before listening to your show, I would have never thought the following. But do you think that there's a chance, or is it even likely, that at least one person was doing this, that Bernie was doing this in some way in the service of Hillary or the general Democratic campaign? The annoyance he created and the joy that he stopped was so palpable that if it was intentionally specific to foment a feeling of disapproval of the nonconformists who were refusing to get on board with the Hillary train, it was awe-inspiringly brilliant. The guy gave a masterful performance. I swear he bowed a little when he left. I don't quite understand that last sentence, but is this the ultimate House of Cards play to secretly foment anger amongst the Democratic populace leading into the convention?
I mean, if there's a conspiracy going on that is of that line, nobody's really aware of it, number one. And number two, does it matter? You know, Bernie Sanders got up, and sometimes politics, even though you want to put everything in House of Cards terms sometimes, there's also a what you see is what you get element to it. So if Bernie Sanders stands up and he says, all right, past is past, and this is water under the bridge, we have our differences, but I'm going to support Hillary Clinton now.
Yeah. This seems like one of those where you just got to have to just text Occam and ask him to bring his razor, because this, I think it is, sometimes it's just a cigar. You know, although I will say this, that if Bernie Sanders gets up in Philadelphia and gives a speech like Ted Cruz.
Freud would love this race, by the way. So.
If he gave that last night, you will see Hillary Clinton, like Oren Ishii in Kill Bill, tiptoe her way to the front of the stage and lop off his head with a katana. Like there will be nothing of the sort that will happen in Philadelphia, right?
Put that in the asteroid hitting Washington category again too.
There's
effectively no way this is going to happen.
If Hillary Clinton got wind that he was not planning on endorsing her, we would be wondering about Bernie Sanders' mysterious broken leg that kept him from the stadium in Philadelphia. All right, that about wraps it up for us. You can email us, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Put politics in the subject line. You can buy The Contender at thecontender.us. Cheapest price it'll ever be sold for is during these conventions. $49.99 for the 500-card base deck and both expansions. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. Follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. Dave, where can people find you?
Public Eye, PUBLICI, for the Center for Public Integrity, and at Dave Levinthal, DAVELEVINTHAL.
Thank you guys very much. We will see you in Philadelphia.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.